Hey everyone, this is Samuel24, and today I'll be showing you that competitive deck that I was using that I promised on Sunday. Uh, Now, the good thing about the Casey Cup is that it kind of brought creativity and it made people think outside the box. And you could have seen it in that report that the top deck in those higher ranks, it wasn't Rex, it wasn't Mako, it wasn't your standard beatdown deck. What you were seeing in those higher tier decks or those higher players, they were actually experimenting with different tags, with different cards, with different characters. And the one that saw the most play was Bandit Keith. And Bandit Keith, what his abilities actually, if you think about it, is extremely strong. Now, to be able to go ahead and send one card back and draw another one, that is huge. And you were seeing a lot of people pick up on that and start using them. And I think what happened is they were kind of trying to copy the Asian servers where everybody's playing Bandit Keith because of the fact that he's extremely competitive. And being able to use a free card trader is huge, and it makes your hands more consistent. Now, that was one of the top players that was being used. The second one was, well, I think it's a tie between either Weevil, Maximilian Pegasus, and Mai. Now, the character that I went with was Pegasus, and the reason I went with Pegasus is because his ability Mind Scan, it's huge. The amount of information that you get from Mind Scan will win you games. And yes, I think the Bandit Keith was a little bit more consistent. However, knowing what your opponent had in the back row, that was huge, and most of the time won you the game. There was another demo video or a gameplay that I uploaded. I think it was on Sunday or Saturday that you could look at, and I knew he had that magical arm, and I didn't overextend or I didn't try to go ahead and summon another monster or anything, because I knew he had that magical arm because of the mind scan. He had said it like in those first turns. Now, this is the deck profile, and this there was a lot of similar decks like this. Uh, Another top deck that was out there was the Harpies, and the Harpies is similar to this one, except with the beans, it runs Harpies, uh, and it runs the Harpies Hunting Ground, uh, and they run one Sonic Bird and one Manju. Now, ideally, I wanted to run two Manjus, and I did open a ton of packs trying to open it, but unfortunately I couldn't get one. However, this deck is still extremely consistent, and at those higher tiers, I was noticing that the Rex Raptor deck and that Mako deck, they were suffering a lot. And if you didn't have like the tech like that magical arm, or if you didn't have your own tech to counter other decks, you were just out there and you weren't doing anything because everyone was siding or not siding but main decking for you, and there was no way you could compete. Most people out there in those higher tiers, they were all running multiple copies of Twisters and these spells to where it completely crippled the Rex Raptors and it completely crippled the Mako Tsunamis. Because once you get rid of the field spell, they really can't do anything, and the deck just goes back to beating a 16,000 attack beat sticks. And running a beat stick against something like this that everybody was playing, or something against the Weevil deck where it wants to do is just stall out and have your monsters just sit on the field with the mask of I think it was the Mask of Darkness or something like that, or it's an equip card where you can equip to a monster, and for every time or every turn that passes, you take 500 damage. And Raptors and those decks don't have an out to that because they don't run any tributes. They don't run anything else other than the Order Charge and the Twisters. And in some cases, some of the Rexes, they were only running like two Twisters, and by that time they'd had already lost by the time they drew a Twister. So they weren't really able to compete, and this Casey Cup really brought out the creativity in the players, and it kind of separated the higher tier players from the players that were just starting out. And I know that if you just started playing, or if you just picked up Yu-Gi-Oh, that the Casey Cup was extremely difficult for you. And the reason for that being is that in this cup, it was kind of making you play against players of the similar, like of a similar rank or of similar skill level. And in the King of Games, they don't do that. They just pair you up against any player that's on the same rank, or like not the same rank, but like that has that same that started out at the same time that you did. and it doesn't have as much skill, or it could just be another player that is just barely starting out, like in silver or bronze or anything, or those lower levels. It's just not as good, or it's not as competitive as the KC Cup was. So I did enjoy a ton of the KC Cup, and I wished I had more time to play more in it. Uh, I didn't have a lot of time, and I didn't end up playing as much as I wanted to. So I think I ended up in like in the not 4 or 5 thousands or something like that because I didn't play as much. But I did win almost undefeated until like I think it was like the 7 stars, and after that I started trolling around because I knew I wasn't gonna keep playing because I didn't have the time. I started trolling around with a couple of decks and different ideas and see how people reacted. Now, after you've reached like 6 or 7 stars, you stop seeing Rex and Mako completely. They were nowhere to be seen. It was just Pegasus. It was the uh, what is it? Uh, Bandit Keith and Weevil. Nothing but that. And there were the if you played with just some random decks, you were able to catch them off guard. Or if you just used a random deck, as you saw, I played with the Cyberstein, and the opponent really didn't know how to act because he was expecting a higher tier, let's say, mindset. And what the Cyberstein deck does is just it's you just go in a straight line and don't do anything other than that. And I think what they were caught off guard and they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to think, and that's why you caught most of those people off guard, and you can easily win with just a random deck that wasn't even top tier. But if you played a Rex Raptor or anything, you would just completely get destroyed. So there was no point in you even playing. So this is the deck, and it consists of 2 Relinquishes, 2 Sonic Birds, a Manju. Like I said, I did hope that I had a second Manju, and I would have replaced one of the beans with another Manju. The Karibo, the 2 star Ladybugs, and like I said, all decks were heavily built against the Rex Raptor and against Mako, and the Ladybugs and the Twister just completely obliterated those decks. So as long as you had a Ladybug and a Twister, you won. There was no way they can come back. And for the Jin and in this deck is so good because what it does is it prevents your Relinquish from getting Divine Wrath. It prevents him from getting Michizure or any trap cards. It negates the effect of any trap cards that would target a Relinquish. So the Jin was extremely good, and what you wanted to do most of the time was set a Jin and then wait until you have the relinquish, and then wait until your opponent activated their relinquish. And at those higher tiers, it was just a battle of relinquishes and who played the better hand and who played and at a higher skill. Whoever made the first mistake most of the time just lost. And it wasn't. I think it was higher skill based, and it wasn't as much as luck because those players in those higher tiers didn't just randomly attack out of nowhere or didn't randomly activate a twister out of nowhere. Twisters were huge in those higher tiers. If they relinquish one of your monsters, you twister them, you attack them, and take out their relinquish. And if you were holding those twisters, if you were holding those traps, and you weren't making any errors or anything like that, you would win. So I did have a ton of fun, and I do wish that I could have played more. So here's the deck profile. Like I said, we were ending. We were still at the Jin, the 2 beans, the 3 twisters, the 2 rituals, a mirror wall, a Mitsuda, and a windstorm, and that was basically it. I know the deck looks extremely simple, but it is extremely good. It's so good that Rexes and Makos really couldn't compete with it. And the fact that you could see that back row, and for my playstyle again with mind scan, that's just a playstyle that I have. I do like information, and I do play extremely conservative, as opposed to kind of going with a Bandit Keith and switcheroo, and maybe having that extra draw. But I did decide to go with the mind scan instead of the switcheroo. You can, if you're playing this deck, you can either go with the switcheroo or mind scan, or you can maybe even do restart with Bandit Keith or with anyone else, or you could have done my with Harpy's Hunting Ground. But again, this is what I felt better with, what I liked the most, and it was just all over. It was great. So here's a deck profile, and I'll go ahead and add some. The Another thing that I have to mention is the games were actually way longer than any King of Games game. The King of games usually last from like anywhere from like 5 to 10 minutes maybe. The the games that I was encountering in those higher tier and tier levels, everybody thought of everything they were gonna do before they did it, and so you had to think of everything before you kind of messed up and lost. So it was extremely fun for me, and I'll try to find one of the videos where it's not as long, because if you're not playing or if you're just watching the gameplay, it's not as intense, I'm gonna say, as when you're playing it and you're kind of trying to outplay your opponent. So I'm gonna try to maybe find a video that's around 7 to 10 minutes and attach it to the end of this, so you can go ahead and look at how kind of the deck plays and everything. But overall, that Casey Cup, I think, in my opinion, was extremely good. It was extremely fun. I know a lot of you didn't like it because of that skill that it required, and it paired you up with similar skill levels. But again, that's how you learn. Playing against those higher skill levels, it increases your skill level as well. And again, I'll attach a video. Do enjoy the video. It's extremely good. In my opinion, it's extremely fun. And if you are enjoying my videos, and if you are liking the content I am putting out, feel free to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to go ahead and maybe give me more suggestions of another video that I can make or anything, leave a comment down below. I would truly appreciate if you do that, and do subscribe if you are enjoying my content. Again, I'm focusing more on a competitive kind of setting and more on deck profiles and pack openings. I don't really have time for that gossipy things like new characters, new cards, and all of that. I really don't have the time for that. And I do enjoy the competitive aspect of the game, so that's kind of where I'm going to be focusing on. If if you like gossipy, there's a ton of content creators out there that you can search up, and that will help you, or maybe keep you up to date on what's happening. So this is going to be it for today. Enjoy the rest of the video, and like I said, if you are enjoying the content, if you are liking it, do subscribe, do leave a like, and do leave a comment, because they do really help.